By the early 11th century, Ibn Sina had become a towering symbol of Greek philosophy in the Eastern Muslim world. His influence was so profound that when al-Ghazali launched a fierce critique against Neapolitanism, it seems like the entire edifice of the philosophy might collapse. Yet, the intellectual spirit of Ibn Sina has kindled proved resilient, breathing new life into the Islamic thought. Amidst this tumultuous backdrop, the genuine teaching of the Aristotle were largely shrouded in confusion and misinterpretation. And it wasn't until the 12th century that Aristotle's true idea began to surface. And thanks to the remarkable figure from Cordova known as Ibn Rushd or Averroes in the Latin West. Ibn Rushd was born in 1126 into a prestigious family of scholars and jurists in Muslim Spain. His early education was traditional, focusing on language, jurisprudence, and theology. However, his exceptional talent in the medicine soon became a light, and he gained prominence through his association with the leading medical authority of the time, Ibn Zuhr. In 1169, he authored the significant medical treatise al-Kulliyat, showcasing his deep expertise. His philosophical journey, though the less documented, was profoundly influenced by two mentors, Ibn Bajjah and Ibn Tufail. It was through Ibn Tufail that Ibn Rushd found himself at a pivotal moment in his life. Around 1169, Ibn Tufail introduced him to the Caliph Abu Yaqub Yusuf, who had a keen interest in philosophy and science. The Caliph, eager to understand Aristotle's works, engaged Ibn Rushd in a challenging conversation about the eternity of the world. Unprepared for such a direct philosophical debate, Ibn Rushd was initially taken aback but soon found his footing. This encounter led to two significant outcomes. Ibn Rushd was appointed as the judge of Seville and was tasked with the monumental job of interpreting and rephrasing Aristotle's works. His dedication and expertise earned him a return to Cordova, coming as the chief judge, a position his father and grandfather has also held. Eventually, he became the court physician in the Marrakesh, succeeding his mentor Ibn Tufail in 1182. Life took a dramatic turn into the death of Caliph Abu Yaqub in 1184. The new Caliph Abu Yusuf initially maintained Ibn Rushd's esteemed position. However, 10 years later, public pressure or the personal vendettas led to the sudden fall from the grace. The Caliph ordered Ibn Rushd's books burned and exiled him to Sina, a small town southeast of the Cordova, along with the other philosopher and scientists. A prohibition against the study of the philosophy and science followed. The winds of fortune soon shifted again. Ibn Rushd was restored to the favor, and even the Caliph resumed his philosophical studies. Ibn Rushd continued his work until the death. In 1198, at the age of 72, leaving behind a legacy that would profoundly influence both the Islamic world and Western worlds. His mortal remains were transferred to the Cordova. Ibn al-Arabi, who had met Averroes in his youth, attended the funeral and left us a touching account of it. Ibn Rushd, also known as Averroes, produced a vast and varied body of work that matched the outputs of the greatest Eastern philosophers. His meticulous commentaries on Aristotle and his careful exploration of the relationship between philosophy and dogma set him apart from the contemporaries like al-Farabi and Ibn Sina. Unlike these peers, Ibn Rushd also served as a judge and wrote systematic treatises on jurisprudence, with his Bidayatul Mujtahid still existing today, and that I have read in my school days as well, when I was in madrasa. Additionally, his medical writings, such as the significant al-Kulliyat, added to his diverse contributions. Though he didn't invent the methods of commentary, Ibn Rushd perfected it, drawing parallels to the Quranic method of tafsir. He wrote 3 types of commentaries on Aristotle: large commentaries and the short covering works like Physics, Metaphysics, and Diamina. Besides these commentaries, he critiqued al-Farabi and Ibn Sina, arguing that they misunderstood Aristotle and wrote about the harmony between philosophy and scripture. Ibn Rushd's influence wasn't just as a commentator on Aristotle, but also as a key figure in Islamic philosophical thought. Unfortunately, historians have often overlooked his contributions to the relationship between philosophy and scripture, painting him as merely a rebel against the church for an intellectual leader among the Jewish scholars. His legacy, however, was cemented through the recognition of his work by Jewish and Christian scholars alike. By the 12th century, Jewish scholars read his works in Arabic. By the 13th century, his writings were transferred into the Hebrew and into the Latin, and this westward journey of his ideas saw his commentaries translated and studied by figures like Moses ben Thiban and Michael Descartes. His influence continued to grow, inspiring a wave of the super commentaries in the 14th century. And then Ibn Rushd's impact on philosophy transcends culture and centuries, making him a central figure in the history of medieval thought, bridging the intellectual tradition of the Islamic world and the Western Europe. Ibn Rushd's commentaries become a key part of the Aristotelian heritage in the Western Europe. Within the Muslim Empire, however, we hardly find any disciples or the notable successor. Even his critics, with the possible exception of Ibn Taymiyyah, were not as influential as those of Ibn Sina, like al-Ghazali. To truly grasp the philosophical and theological ideas of Ibn Rushd, you need to explore his masterpiece, al-Tahafut, the Incoherence of the Incoherence. Written around 1180, this work showcases his mature thinking and systematically counters al-Ghazali's criticism of Greco-Arab philosophy. Its brilliant exposition of Ibn Rushd's core ideas, making it an essential read for understanding his intellectual legacy. Al-Ghazali had fiercely criticized al-Farabi and Ibn Sina, 2 prominent Muslim interpreter of Aristotle. Instead of defending them, Ibn Rushd chose to show how they diverge from the true Aristotelian teaching and examine the strength of al-Ghazali's arguments. Through his deep study of Aristotle, Ibn Rushd could identify these differences better than any other Muslim philosopher and break down the key issues dividing Islamic philosophers and theologians. In some of his large works, like his commentaries on physics and metaphysics, Ibn Rushd delves deeper into these issues, but nowhere did he present them more clearly and dramatically than in his masterpiece, the Tahafut, or the Incoherence of the Incoherence. And before exploring Ibn Rushd's critiques of al-Ghazali, it's crucial to understand his contribution to the debate about the relationship between the philosophy and scripture, a topic that had troubled Muslim thinkers since al-Kindi's time. Ibn Rushd, more systematically than his predecessor, tackled this issue with a rigorous intellectual or theological method. He started from the idea popularized by the Brethren of Purity, Ikhwan Safa, of the unity of truth in all its forms, which was a key concept for a Muslim philosopher to reconcile their work with Islamic theology.